So greetings from Pennsylvania once again, folks, and welcome back to another video. We are up in Tioga County today, up in north central Pennsylvania. I'm actually headed up to the cabin to spend some time with some extended family, cousins and stuff. But on the way up, right off of Route 287, the way I go up, there is a trail here called the Haunted Mine Trail. Let me show you on the map. Alright, so this is the Purple Lizard map for Pine Creek. Up there is Womelsdorf, you got the Pine Creek, you got Leonard Harrison State Park, Grand Canyon, Pennsylvania, but over here, coming up Route 287, is something called the Anna S. Mine Vista. I'm not sure how well you can see it on the camera there, but on the newer maps they show a trail coming up here called the Haunted Mine Trail. So we're right here, just pull off, pretty large pull off right here is where we're at. Right there's 287. Alright, finally the traffic has let up a little bit. It's getting kind of noisy here, but finding the trailhead was still a little difficult. It's all kind of overgrown here. But if you go over this stone wall, there is a, oh, up here, yeah, I lost it already. There's a signboard up here in the woods. So yeah, kind of it's a big find. It's all kind of overgrown. I don't think this trail is too popular yet. I think it's a newer one. But yeah, as you can see, not sure why this is made nicer, but yeah, in the middle of this brush they have a signboard here. Yeah, so we are parked right here, and we're gonna head up this Haunted Mine Trail up to here to a vista. So just under a mile to the top there. All right, and it is a yellow blazed trail, although I don't really see much of a trail at the moment, but there's our yellow blaze. Oh yeah, there's some stones going across. Just pretty overgrown. Yeah, so it is blazed. Well, I got the double blaze for us to turn. Alright. Let's get away from this traffic noise though. And just like that, we start heading up. Yeah, traffic is really busy today. Well, this is Labor Day weekend. Well, it's actually Friday, but August 29th. But man, the roads have been so busy. Most of them. Alright, but the trail's flattened out a little bit. So yeah, there is a mine up here. It's called the Anna S. Mine. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. Also talk about why it's called the Haunted Mine Trail. There's a waterfall up here too. But yeah, just super busy traffic day. I just feel like I have to vent a little bit the whole way up with. Well, not the whole way up, but it was very trafficy. Stopped at Chick-fil-A. That took like over half an hour to get my sandwich. I know, but it was lunchtime, Labor Day weekend, Chick-fil-A drive-thru. Yeah, that was down at Williamsport. So yeah, I think this popped up on my Facebook feed. I follow Purple Lizard Maps on Facebook, and they had a post about spooky hikes. You know, that season is coming up here. You know, today for me filming is the end of August. This video will be up in middle of September probably. So yeah, it is that time of year. Start thinking about some spooky hikes. So when I saw the Haunted Mine Trail, I was like, oh yeah, I gotta do that. And then I saw where it was, right off of Route 287. I knew like in about a week or so I'd be coming up here. I was like, that is perfect. And this trail we're walking on, see how it's actually like an old road. This is the trail that the miners would take to get up to the mines from the bottom of the valley here. So we're on the trail that the miners would have hiked. And as you can see, it was a little hard to find a trail down there. I'm gonna walk around for a little bit. And a grossness warning, people use that pull off quite a bit to relieve themselves, shall we say. Before finding where the trail was, I found lots of used toilet paper and other piles of other stuff, if you know what I mean. Yeah, we should, like I said, we should come across a waterfall. It's not a natural one, it's a man-made one due to some mine drainage coming from the top of the mountain. Alright, so just came up one of the steeper sections here. Now the trail takes a turn. I can see the pullover down through the trees. Get a little quieter up here. I know everybody's wondering, well, why is it called the Haunted Mine Trail? Let me tell you a little bit about the history here first, and then we'll get to the haunted aspect. Looks like we start heading back up again here, though. I feel like I can hear water up there, too. So coal mining has occurred up in these hills for quite a while. So there's older history up here, but then there's some newer history, you know, from the 70s and 90s, although that's not necessarily newer history anymore. But the more recent part of this mine that operated from the 70s to the 90s, it got shut down at one point due to environmental issues. But that newer mine, at one point, as they were digging new, you know, tunnels into the earth, they encountered some of the older tunnel workings from decades and decades and decades ago. I know the 70s are decades ago too, but we're talking about, like, you know, the 30s, 40s, maybe even late 1800s time era. And that's where the haunted stuff begins. So let's get to the top of this here first, this steeper spot. Yeah, there's some flat sections, and steep, and flat, and steep. I wouldn't want to be one of those workers having to walk up here every day. All right, so here's our water. Yeah, so there are near a series of cascades. Maybe there's a larger waterfall higher up, I'm not sure, but we should be able to cross here without getting wet feet, we'll see. I think I can leap that. We got it. Yeah, in higher water levels, you'll either get your feet wet or take your shoes and socks off, but we were able to do a little hop there. So that is treated mine water. Like I said, this mine got shut down. I think it was 1990. They were allowing mine drainage water, untreated water, get into the local water system, creek, because it's a federal offense. So they got shut down, and then this became part of Tioga State Forest. So it still has a bit of a color, but it's treated mine water. Yeah, so we're not too far from the top, but from what I've read, this trail kind of goes down a little bit again and then back up, so it's a bit frustrating. All right, but let's get into some of this haunted stuff. But yeah, I really don't want to go downhill, but it looks like it's inevitable here. Yeah, so when those workers from the 1970s were tunneling even further into the hills here, they encountered some of those older workings from like maybe the late 1800s, early 1900s. And they could tell that they're older workings. And they said that that's when things got weird in the mines, especially for people working like the night shift. Those individuals claimed to see apparitions of period miners, you know, miners from like, you know, the olden days, coming up out of those tunnels or out of those shafts, you know, wearing the old style clothing, the old carbide lamps. Not necessarily threatening anybody, but just coming out, these apparitions, these ghosts coming up out of the mines. And so that kind of, to say at least, that kind of freaked people out. One source says they had trouble getting people to work the night shift then. Yeah, so ghost miners coming up out of the mines. And there were other stories too of people hearing a woman crying or a woman screaming. I forget which one it was, maybe it was both, coming from the mine. Some say she was looking for her lost child. or something like that. So that would definitely keep people from wanting to work in the mines. Some of these stories extended even after the mine was shut down. You know, people would go up here exploring and stuff and claim to hear like screaming and crying. Yeah, but we really are going back downhill again. Just looking back. We were almost to the top, and now we're coming back down. So we're going to have to regain all this elevation somewhere up here again. But no ghostly apparitions for me yet. You can drive up towards that area too. There are other trails. The Mid-State Trail goes up there too. So there are other ways to get to the vista where we're headed and the mining area, but I wanted to take the haunted mine trail to the top. That just sounds cool. Alright, but now our trail veers off to the left. We got the double blaze there, and that just goes up. So we have to regain all the elevation we just lost and start heading steeply up again. And there are some other stories too, I'll tell you in a minute. Some more modern hauntings of this place. But I'm going to work on getting to the top here first. Getting there. Hey, well, this section is steep. Gotta start to get some vistas out that way though. So at the top here we should hook up with the Mid-State Trail. And we'll head right towards the vista. Check this out. There are some ruins up here. Some stonework right here. I don't remember reading about this. Not sure. Okay, there's some metal coming out the top. So I'm not sure. Looks like our trail finishes going to the top this way. Just look around to see if there's anything else. Huh. Not sure. Although now that I think about it, I do remember reading about some kind of a tram system or a bucket system that went either across the valley or, yeah, maybe across the valley. That would carry the coal across. So maybe that's the foundations of one of the, the uprights that would hold, like a system, like a pulley system taking buckets of coal across the valley. Because one account said that some of the miners would take that, hop in one of those buckets to go across, to go home. And supposedly some of them froze to death they got left in the bucket overnight up above the valley and froze to death. Which kind of adds to the haunted aspect. But yeah. Okay, that's depressing, but so maybe there's more of these. Alright, but we're almost at the top. There are chunks of coal. This is different than a lot of the coal we find back home. This is not anthracite coal, this is that bituminous coal. It's a little different. Sometimes called soft coal versus the hard coal, which would be anthracite. Whew. There's all kinds of little trails up here. Ours goes this way. Keep following the yellow blazes. Yeah, there's actually lots of coal laying around here. Huh. Might be a fun place to explore some other time. Alright, I think right here is the Mid-State Trail. Yeah, it's all coal waste right here. Whew. Yeah, side trail parking, that's us. And you see the view, and the orange blaze is the Mid-State Trail. So, you can get up here from that way. Might be a little bit easier. Because these are all piles of coal waste, or calm piles they call them. Even all this here. Alright, so we're not quite at the top yet, but... So yeah, just stopping to take a little break here. The camera's a little crooked, but that's fine. Yeah, kind of a steep hike up here. Not a very hot day, but we're starting to sweat a little bit. Yeah, but some of the more modern stories, you know, all these stories you kind of take with a grain of salt, you know how it is. But when people would come up here, I guess, I'm not sure if you can still, I think there's a road over there called Rattler Road, which I still think you might be able to drive up to this area. I forget how that goes, but people have stories of coming up here in their car, and then, you know, the typical car story with hauntings, you know, the car stops working right, or the clock changes, or doesn't run right, or it stops, you know, electronics fail. Those are more recent stories. But, you know, like I said, whether that's true or not, I like the old timey story about the, you know, the old miners coming up out of the shafts at night and scaring the more modern mine workers. So yeah, and those mines are around here. There's some more ruins right there I'm going to show you. Might start going that way again. Alright, so the vista should just be down that way. I'm just going to rest here for just a little bit more before we get going. A farewell to a nice little break spot. If you look all around, there's like piles of this waste material, and right up here is something. It looks like there's a little sign up here too. Oh yeah, I was right about that. So the Anna S, that's the name of the mine, and the bucket tram, 1905 to 1937. So that is what this was, because right there it is, and then just down below us was that other little stone pillar. It was just down there. Cool. This is where it started. That's probably, those holes are probably where the cables went in. Wow. Let's just take a look. There's all kinds of metal. Oh. Yeah, concrete and rock. It's pretty crude work there, but I guess it worked. Yeah, wow. Don't see any holes on this side though. Lots of chunks of metal and stuff. Actually, right there, maybe that's where the cables came out. As you can see, the impressions here, there's more to this. There's all kinds of metal here. Some larger pieces over there. See what this is. All kinds of, gotta be careful here, there's all kinds of like, you slip and fall, it's like chunks of like metal sticking out. Yeah, not quite sure what that is, but yeah, more chunks of metal up there all over the place. But I'll give you some perspective of how big this is. Decent sized hunk of rock and concrete. But let's focus on getting to the overlook. I do want to get up to the cabin. I do want to see my cousins too, so. But this looks like a place to come back to someday. Maybe find a slightly easier way to get here to look into that. Looks like there's a lot more to find up here. Alright. And I did read stories about people exploring these mines or the entrances. I'm not sure if those are accessible anymore, because now that the state forest owns it, they tend to fill those places in, which is probably a good thing. Those old mines are dangerous. Oh, I think this is the vista up here. So yeah, this just has that typical look of mining activity. There's trails going everywhere. I know there's some treatment ponds up there for some of the abandoned mine water. Maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll take a peek up there. But let's go over to the vista. Yeah, this is just one giant coal waste pile. Oh wow, that actually is pretty cool. Vulture out there. Ooh, you don't want to go close to the edge. There's absolutely no traction on this stuff. You step over, you're just gonna go down. I wonder if there's fossils up here. Wow, this is pretty cool. That drops off steeply. Yeah, there's 287, so if you're coming south on 287, you can look up here and see this. But wow. Yeah, they call this the Haunted Vista. Oh, speaking of turkey vulture, or is that a black vulture? Let's zoom in on it. I feel like I'm disturbing his peace over there. He's just chilling out there. I was gonna head up there and get a view from there, but I think I'll let him go. Just adds this haunted vista ambiance. He's checking us out too. Yeah, this is pretty cool. It's not one of the best vistas here in Pennsylvania, but it's still worth stopping by. Now he flew off now, so I guess we bothered him too much. I think this is the best. He had the best spot over here, I think. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, definitely had the best spot. But once again, don't get close to the edge or you're going down. Like I said, this stuff is just crumbly. There's no traction, you just go down. Wow. Yeah, but definitely worth coming up here. Like I said, the way I came up, I think there's easier ways here, but I saw, haunted mine trail. I'm like, I need to hike that, the haunted mine trail. It makes a great title to a video too, but beautiful views here as well. All right, let's tear ourselves away. I kind of just want to keep exploring, but I do have places to go. Yeah, no fires. That looks so intriguing back here. This is not the way I'm supposed to go, but we're gonna. Oh wow, there's so much going on back here, it looks like. All right, well, I gotta tear myself away. Wonder if there were some mine openings right down here, actually. It almost looks like it. Also looks like a collapsed entrance, because you have all this, because right out here you have all this waste coal. Alright, we have to save that for some other time. Alright, but I think we are just going to start heading down. I really want to look elsewhere, but it's after 3 o'clock now. I do want to get to the cabin too. Problem is, once I start exploring, I'm not going to stop, so. Sorry, I want this video to be about the trail and the vista. But this place looks like it's definitely worth a whole nother video of just exploring. Alright, let's start making our way back down. Alright, so there's our trail back down. But I see a sign up here. I'm going to quick check what this says. See, there are all kinds of trails everywhere. Anyway, this place looks fascinating. Oh, here it is. It just says Mid-State Trail, watch your step. Okay. I thought maybe that sign would give some mileage to the next parking area that way, but anyway. Alright, time to head down. Coming up was a little bit difficult, heading down should be a little easier. Back down the haunted mine trail. So far, no apparitions of any sort. Alright, just got done with that steep section and the traffic noise is starting to pick up again. So I think I'll say farewell to you here, unless I see something ghostly on the rest of the way, which I don't think I will, but yeah, a fun little trail. Like I said, if you find that big pull-off, just look in the woods for that wooden sign, that's where the trail is. Just heavily overgrown right there, and lots of other stuff. Like I said at the beginning of the video, you don't want to step in that. A little bit noisy, close to the bottom of the traffic, but not a bad little spot up there. Cool little story. Some neat history. Alright, thanks for coming along. I'm headed up to the cabin. I'll be up here for a couple days. I'll do some other filming in the area too. Not a lot. But yeah. Alright, I'm rambling. Thanks for coming along. Thanks for watching. Hopefully we'll see you on the next one.